Put on my stuff right away. Hey everybody, it is Kendell Lenice and welcome to More Than Just a Movie, where my brother, my partner, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. and I break down classic Black films. Well, this is season 5. In season 5, this is me and Leroy's show, so we do what we want. We said, let's break down classic Black television shows. Now, we're talking about classic Black television shows where we can finish the sentences, we know the lines, we know the scenes, we know the characters. We feel like we are a part of their family. So if you watched last week, we talked about Martin, and now today we're talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will Smith, we know Will Smith from The Fresh Prince with Jazzy Jeff and The Fresh Prince. And the world came to know about Fresh Prince. So we're going to have a shorter show today because I got to get to the gym. But Will Smith, many of them know, Leroy, I done read that book 6 times, and he talks about how Fresh Prince came to be. But we're going to talk about that and a little more. Welcome to More Than Just a Movie, classic Black TV today. Leroy, what's good?
Power to the people.
The Fresh. So let's see if you can sing the lyrics to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's actually one of the largest rap songs. They consider that a rap song because it has been recorded in the entire world. It's one of the largest ones with the most listened tos, the most downloads, and the people who know the lyrics.
And that's just how gigantic Will Smith has become.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing of it is, I was a Fresh Prince fan before he became the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because that
right, Jazzy Jeff.
that first cassette, I had it on cassette tape. The first I guess I think it was the first tape that they did that him and Jazzy Jeff had come out. Not the he's the DJ, I'm the rapper, but the one before that with I think it's Jazzy Jeff's House or Jazzy Jeff Rock or something like that, whatever's on it. And this was before before Parents You Just Don't Understand. This was before that one.
Yeah.
So
Talk about
I was
talk about it.
Yeah, I was a fan back when he first started. A lot of folks don't go back that far with him, and even with the celebration of hip hop, 50 years of hip hop, I love that he was included in that tour.
Yes.
I guess the tour that they're doing,
and
he rocked
the first rappers that won a Grammy.
Grammy.
Let's keep it real.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Talk about
and but he did, and people don't necessarily remember him from back then. Most people, they think of him from Fresh Prince and then all of the stuff that he had after that. But that I'm the DJ, he's the rapper, and that album before, I think those are his first 2. Those are the ones that I like. And he's had some hits here and there, but those are the ones that I really liked, and he did, I guess in that concert that he was doing. I mean, he really rocked the house. I can't deny that. But Jazzy Jeff has always been that DJ,
about?
man. Always been that DJ out of all of them, so it's just like him and Jam Master Jay will probably, and I can't forget my boy Rakim. I mean, Eric B from Eric B and Rakim. Them, those 3 DJs were that went along with rappers. They were it, man. But DJ Jazzy Jeff, he hooked Fresh Prince up with some beats.
Yes, he's one of the most world-renowned DJs, and he's your favorite DJ's DJ.
Yeah,
he's your favorite DJ's influence, right? People talk about, and I had the pleasure to see him live this year.
Did you?
On the 4th tour. It was the 4th tour. It was LL Cool J. It was Queen Latifah, Moni Love, Rakim.
That was the 50, wasn't that part of the 50s?
and De La Soul. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
write in Baltimore. I still call it the well, what is it called? Chesapeake. What is it called now? Not
I
Chesapeake.
don't know. They done
Royal
changed
Farm, I
that
still
name so
call it,
many
but I
times.
can't
Royal
think of the
Farms
name.
Arena.
Right.
You know, it was the Baltimore Arena
Right. The
back in the day. Back in
CNT.
the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And Jazzy Jeff. So I gotta talk about how Fresh Prince came to be. If anybody has read Will Smith's book, Will, which y'all already know, if you subscribe to this channel, you already know I done, yeah, it's a whole food how many times I read it because there's so many gems. But of course, he talks about how the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air came to be. So this is when he had lost all his money the first time,
Hmm.
and the music, of course, the first body of work, the album was a success. He made a boatload of money. So when it came to making the second album, they was playing around, they weren't focused, they were doing all of that, and then that was a flop. Found out they didn't even pay the IRS. The accountant found out that they didn't know anything about that. We have to talk about people that are millionaires in the rap
Yeah.
game and music. They don't know anything about the business side. They know about the creative side. So long story short, he talks about it in the book. They lost everything. Charlie Mack, which is his bodyguard and one of his great friends, they was like, well, just hang out at Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall loves you. Just hang there. It's going to be a lot of people. We can meet and greet. You can get the people. So Charlie Mack would be like, this is Will Smith, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He da 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 da. No, Fresh Prince, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, Grammy Award, and he would kind of run down his resume. So he was in the funk. One of his friends had passed. He had lost all his money. He had just moved to Los Angeles. He had a breakup with his girlfriend, and all these things were happening. And he was in a funk. So he was in the house for a long time. His new girlfriend was like, you need to get up. It's time now. So Charlie Mack took him to Arsenio, and he took him one day just to mingle and just to keep his name and his breath up there. And he met Benny Medina, and
Hmm.
Benny Medina was like, I like, like your songs, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever acted? Will Smith said his motto is just say yes to all of it. Even if you haven't done it and you can't, you say yes,
Uh-uh.
right? So he was like, yeah, I can act. And Benny Medina said, I can tell by your videos and it comes across on the screen. I'm thinking about this project and I might have you in mind. I might have something for you. And of course, Fresh Prince, they always thought people was acting Hollywood and they were from, from Philly, and they didn't really talk to people who act Hollywood. So he thought that Benny Medina was just being Hollywood by saying, yeah, I'm gonna call you about that part I got. Sure enough, he called, and Charlie Mack was like, see, I told you by going there and rubbing elbows. That's a whole vibe and a whole lesson right there. Be around people that are influential and you don't even know how. Just be around networking, and you never know what can come out of being in spaces that you may want to be in the future. So anyway, Benny Medina called him, and he was in, and then Quincy Jones, who was, one of the creators of the show, also was like, they were on tour, they getting ready to do their last show, and Quincy Jones said, come to my house. And he was like, huh? He had to travel, get on the plane to his house. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was in Detroit. He was somewhere. And of course, Quincy Jones lives in California. So he got on a plane, and Quincy Jones asked him to audition right during his party. And Will Smith was like, who, me? Like, I don't know, put him on the spot, right? Long story short, put him on the spot. All the makers were there at the party. The attorneys, the head of the companies, the head of the television stations, all these people in place. Long story short, he ends up getting the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with not a lick of um TV experience. When he first started, he talks about he was reading, he has a good memory, so he would memorize the entire script. And if you look on early episodes, he's mouthing everybody's lines while they're saying their lines. Like if you're saying your lines, Leroy, I'm like this, saying your lines. And they had to tell him that he was doing that. So he was so green, he know what was what. And then he wanted his people with him, so he had to beg. He said his first Fresh Prince of Bel-Air flex was to get Jazzy Jeff on there, but Jazzy Jeff was like, I'm not Hollywood, I ain't no actor, I want to be in Philly, I want to do music. But he said he wanted more for his people, and they were both broke because they lost everything. They owed the IRS, and he was like, listen, I'm going to get you here. But Jazzy Jeff said no. So he was like, listen, you'll make all of this money even if you just do this. It's some girls out here. Let's do it. So he ended up coming and fell in love with it as well. And Jazzy Jeff is one of the most beloved characters on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then, of course, we know what went on for there. But let's talk. For those that don't know, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is an American television sitcom created by Andy and Susan Brockovich for NBC. It was aired from September 10th, 1990 to May 20th, 1996. The series stars, of course, Will Smith as fictional character in of himself. Street smart teenage, born and raised in West Philadelphia, born and raised, we know, right? Who was sent to live with his wealthy uncle and aunt in Bel-Air, where his lifestyle often clashes with the upper class relatives, right? So that's what Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is. All right, Leroy, you said you were a Prince, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince fan. Did you like the show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about this because since we were going to be doing this, to me, in that '90s group, I'm thinking it's got to be tough
Mm-hmm.
between Martin, Living Single, and Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
top three shows of the
Yeah.
'90s. You know,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
just they were to me. I know a different world came along before them, so that's why I'm not including them. I know they
Yeah.
think a different world went into the
Yeah.
'90s, but Fresh Prince, Living Single, Martin were the '90s shows um for us. And I liked
Yeah.
the I liked everything about, like you were just saying, about the show, the concept of the
Mm-hmm.
show. And it fit, it actually
Mm-hmm.
fit Will, because and I don't know when, like you were
Yeah.
saying, when Benny Medina wrote the show, if that's what they had in mind, this
Yeah.
kid from Philly that was moving out to to Hollywood, or to and everything like that, but it fit him.
They didn't have that in mind. They didn't
Okay,
have that in
okay,
mind. It wasn't originally, when Will talks about it in the book, it wasn't supposed to be a kid
okay.
from Philly.
Philly,
This
okay,
is
okay,
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is based off of Benny Medina's life. It's based
okay,
off of Benny Medina's life. He
okay,
got
okay,
sent, he was adopted, got sent to Beverly Hills.
okay.
But Quincy Jones was like, Quincy Jones lived in Bel-Air, and he was like, this needs to be in Bel-Air. And he
Mm,
asked Will, where was he from?
from
And he Will talks about this in his book. And he said Philly. He was like, all right, y'all, the character now gonna be from Philly, because that's where
from
he's from.
Philly,
So
and it
so
fitted.
he started calling,
Yeah,
yeah, and it was perfect. It was perfect.
yeah, yeah.
It was
Fresh Prince
perfect.
of Bel
Um,
Air. That all went well together, and even you can tell because even the writing, the stories that they created there,
yeah,
for the
yeah,
show, I think were very well written, well put together,
yeah,
and how they grew the characters. The only thing that I didn't like about
yeah.
the show, and that they changed the first
Come
Aunt
on,
Viv. That was that
come
that was
on.
my issue that I had with the show, that they changed
Talk
her out.
about it. Talk
I loved the
about it.
first Aunt Viv, and I hated, and
Yep.
I don't know if Will talked about it in his book, but how they treated her, and how they
Yeah.
moved in. And nothing against Daphne Maxwell Reed, love her because I love her and her husband Tim Reed and what
Yeah.
they've done
and
and
love
everything
her.
like that.
Right.
But the first Aunt Viv was the one for me. She fit that role. She was that Aunt Viv,
Yeah.
because she
Perfect.
seemed to fit.
Yep.
She seemed to fit that
Yep.
character. Okay, her sister was from
Yep.
Philly. They from Philly. They,
Yep.
all of that seemed
Yep.
to really flow
That
together
was
to
perfect.
me.
Yep.
Yeah, that was perfect to me. That's the only criticism
Yep.
that I have of the
Yeah.
show, was that they changed out Aunt Viv.
And
Honestly,
I totally agree. And she was the most seasoned. Will says in his book that she was the one who kept the
really.
integrity of the show.
Okay.
He said in hindsight, the show took a hit because
Yep.
she was not on there. And we
Yeah.
know through the news
Yeah.
what happened and, the vitriol that she was sending his way because she was hurt, she was pregnant, and she got fired because she was trying to keep the integrity, she was trying to make sure folks was paid what they were paid, and she was made to be a villain. So I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys seen a couple years ago, he had to sit down with her and he
Hmm.
filmed it, and it was the most beautiful moment. But he said he was young, had all that power, his he was insecure. He imagine being insecure and having an ego
Well, that's what
and
happens to a
having the
lot of the
power. Right.
but that's what happens to a lot of the entertainers, a lot of the athletes. You have these young kids, and we're talking teenagers to 20s, in their 20s, very young, very
Mhm.
green, and they have a lot of money, they got a lot of
Calling the
power.
shots.
And real quick, and this is a little side note. This is the problem that I have with these college athletes getting the NIL deals, because they're getting all of this money,
Uh-oh.
and they don't know how to handle it, and they
Mm,
mishandle it, and they mishandle, or they get the big
mm.
head, and school no longer becomes a priority for them. I'm making,
Yeah.
a couple of thousand, 100,000. I'm making 2 million with some of
Yeah.
them. I'm making upwards towards $4 million.
Yeah.
With these
Yeah.
NIL deals. So you get these young kids, and you
Yep.
get Will was what? Will was in his 20s, I think. Then was he in his mid 20s
Yep.
when he got the Fresh
Just
Prince?
in.
Yeah.
Early
And
20s. Yep.
the thing is, yeah, he had money, because they had done well with him,
Mhm.
and Jazzy
Mhm.
Jeff and Fresh Prince. They had done
And
well,
then lost it all.
and
And
then
lost it
lost it
all.
all. But then
Mhm.
now, to be back in a position, like you were saying, be back in a position where they were giving him that kind of power and that kind of leverage, where I don't know if I think Martin had the same similar things that happened with him, where he became a part of management versus just being
Mhm.
being an actor,
Mhm.
because they had talked a
Mhm.
little bit about, I remember them talking a little bit about that. So Martin had power as well too. So
Mhm.
them being in Hollywood and having that kind of, so young, and having that kind of
Mhm.
power, that can go to your head. That can get you caught
Yeah.
up real quick,
And
you
it
know?
totally went to your head. It totally went to Will Smith's head, and he was insecure. So think about it, you have
Yeah,
all that power
yeah,
and you're
yeah.
insecure.
And
So
secure.
you
Yep.
making decisions for your ego.
Yep. Yep.
And just because you can call the shots, you're doing that.
Right.
And
Right.
just because you can, and if you insecure and you got a big ego,
Did,
then you're pretty much a jerk. You're pretty much a jerk. Maybe not in totality, but you're making jerk moves. And he's talked about that, and she's talked about that on Viv. And she said, you got to understand, just by you saying what you're saying, you don't understand the power of your voice, because you
mhm.
turned everybody against me. I had a child to raise. I was going through a divorce. I was blackballed just by you using your
Yeah.
voice. So you using your voice, saying one thing, even if you don't mean it, even if it's out of anger, it affected her whole career
Did
because
it
of that much power he had.
did they, in when they had the sit down, or even in Will's
Mhm.
book, did they address what the issue was that he had with her? What kind of, what happened, or the situation, that did they allude to that at all? what it was?
They did, and I believe I haven't seen it in a couple years. It may be on YouTube, but they did, and he apologized, and he looked very sincere when he was talking to her, and she was telling him what that did to her and how she felt, and he totally understood, and they were able to make peace. And it's so
No,
interesting when they made peace,
no,
she started working again. Ain't that?
no, what I'm saying, did she say what did he say what the issue was? Did she make him mad one day and he just got upset because of something she said to him? What was it that triggered him to say what he said that got everybody upset at her and said, well, she's no longer on the show? Did he go to them and say she's got to go? What do you know what that did they say what that was?
The only thing I can't remember if he didn't talk about it in the book, but I can't remember. I know that they addressed it somewhat, but it was just to the point where she was trying to say what should happen and what shouldn't happen, and then asking, but with his ego, he like, I'm the boss, you ain't. That type
Mm,
of thing.
mm.
It was
Okay,
those
okay.
type of petty things.
Gotcha,
From
gotcha.
what I recall, it wasn't really something major that put a stamp in it and she did this. It was little
Mm,
petty stuff, and because he could be the boss, he
mm.
flexed what he could flex. It was that
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah. Mm,
But he said the
yeah.
show suffered. I know we're going to do a short show today. I want to talk about some of the what I like about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is some of the silly and funny ones. I remember when he said, um, don't make a mole out of a hill." He said something. Okay, so part of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the second season, I believe he did 6 degrees of separation, and he got so
Mm,
immersed in that character. He talks about this in his book. He was no longer Will Smith. He didn't know, he was so into the character that when he came back to film Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was speaking differently, he was acting differently, and they were fearful that the show would be canceled because he was given the other character. He didn't even know how to be himself anymore because he got so immersed in his first character that they were afraid, and they kept saying, well, why are you talking like that? Why are you acting like that? He wasn't funny. He didn't know how to
mm.
do things. And towards the end, I believe, of the second season, he kind of snapped back into it. And the joke that he did was like, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. And that was one of the episodes where she was dating a guy with this big mole. And he was like, that was the first time he was back, and people started laughing. But they were fearful that they were going to lose their jobs and the show was going to be canceled because he didn't know how to be him again. And I was like, that method acting. He said never again did he do that method acting, because that's who his wife was like when he was married to Cherie before Jada. He was like, she was like, why are you talking like that? And they had just got married, and he kind of turned into somebody else. I said, that's deep.
But see, he
That's
to
deep.
me, the method acting, he seemed to. I mean, I seen I he seemed to me to be encompassed with every role, and I'm talking
Yeah.
from what was the one where he played the Independence Day
Mm-hmm.
to Ali, which I believe was his
Mm-hmm.
greatest performance. Ali,
Oh, that was good.
he became
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, and
Yes,
I
he
did
did.
hear. I did hear it was a couple other actors. The actor that played in Judas and the Black Messiah, he played the informant. He played, and I forgot his name. He also played in the Photograph. Have you ever seen that movie, The Photograph?
Yeah, that's good.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's so underrated
Yeah,
as a
that's a good
movie, but I
movie.
love
Yeah.
that movie with it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, Issa, yeah, with Issa and the
Lakeith.
guy that's in there. But
Lakeith.
is it? Yeah, yeah. Because I think he's a great actor too. But he was talking
Mhm.
about, I think it was either after Judas and the Messiah or some other
Mhm.
movie that he was in. He was saying that he had to do like go see a therapist to kind of
Ain't
get
that deep?
himself, yeah, to get out of that because they get so encompassed in the character that they got it. And
Yeah.
even I think even Monique talked about it when she did Precious, because she talked about having to
Yeah.
go to this dark place because of the character of
Yeah. That's
Precious's
deep.
mother. She was like, I had to. She was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'd gone to a place that I'd never gone before. So I do believe that about the method acting.
Yeah.
But I've heard that some of them had
Yeah.
to go to therapy to deal with that in order to be able to just get
Yeah.
that person out of them, because they were like Will was saying, he became so enthralled in it, that he immersed in it, that he had to. It was like, whoa, I, like you said, that I don't even know who I am anymore. That's deep. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, that's real deep.
Yeah.
That's
That's
real
deep.
deep.
Ain't it deep? That's deep.
Yeah,
That's
for
deep.
sure.
And everybody,
Yeah,
before we do trivia and get on out of here, that's real deep.
yeah,
Let's talk
yeah,
about one of the most popular where they saw, because Will Smith said he wanted to be the best actor in the world. He wanted to be the top actor in the world. He of course
yeah.
made that journey to be that. But one of the ones where they like, okay, he's not, because sometimes he could be like Martin, over the top, goofy as
Mm,
ever, people taking them lightly because of comedic talent or comedic energy and the goofy and all of that. But when he did the episode when his dad was supposed to come,
yeah,
and he
for
had
real.
that
Yep.
episode with Uncle Phil saying why he don't want me, that's when people said, okay, he has a little more than just um that funniness, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
forgot to talk about who was in it. Karen Parsons. We had Tatiana Ali, Alfonso Ribeiro. I got a chance to see him back in the day. And then we had James Avery. We
Yeah.
talked about Aunt Viv. I can't even, Janice. We had Janet Hubert. I'm sorry. And Jeffrey. Let me get his name right. I want to make sure I get that right. So that was the makeup of the group. I'm going to do some trivia, but talk about what you think about that episode when he was really showing
No,
his
that would.
acting skills.
Yeah, that was the best episode to me of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, period. And it
Yeah,
was a deep, not just because of
yeah,
his acting, but because of that story and
yeah,
how powerful that story was.
yes,
Ben Vereen
yes.
being the great Ben
He did an
Vereen, because
excellent
yeah,
job.
yeah,
Yes,
because it touched on so much that a lot of kids deal with, especially in this day and time. And I
yeah.
just remember him, you know, saying, he was saying, I'm going to be a great this and great that, and he said, why don't he want me, man? Why
And
don't he
he
want
had the
me?
little boy, and that shows every, just because you big, you when you talking about your parents and the abandonment,
Yep.
you turn into a little
Comes to
child
that,
again.
you turn into that child,
Joking
whatever
to
age
myself.
that is,
Yep.
whatever that age is that
Where
you
your
felt
heart
that
was
abandonment,
broken.
that's where
Yep.
you stay. And
Yep.
I don't, did you see the interview that he did? Him and Martin were on it, because I think they were promoting Bad Boys, but he was talking about Fresh
Yeah.
Prince, and he was talking about James Avery and that
Mhm.
scene.
Mhm.
And he couldn't, I think Will was having a problem with trying to get there where they wanted
He
him to
was.
get
He talks about
in
that in
that
his book
scene.
too.
Does
Yep.
he? Okay,
He was
okay,
trying to
yeah,
get there and he kept messing up. He kept
yeah,
messing up, and it was a live audience. So then he was like, F, he said it, and James Avery got in his ear and he
yeah.
said,
He's
you
sitting
can
there.
do
That's
this. Because that was like a father to them. He said, you got
yeah,
this. He said, just look at me. He kept
yep,
saying, look in my eyes when you're talking. Just look at me. And when he did it, he said that James Avery reached around when they hugged in the scene. He was like, now
yeah,
that's acting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he
And
said,
that
Will,
was so good.
no, and Will talked about wanting to be affirmed by James Avery. because he was always trying to make sure that
Yeah.
he was,
He
because
wanted to
James Avery
impress
was,
him.
like you said, that father figure. He was that father, true father figure, literally, both on
Yep.
screen and in
Yep.
real life. And
Yep.
he wanted to
Yep.
please him with how he was acting
Yeah.
and what he was doing and stuff like that. So I was just like, man, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's deep, that's cool, man. You
I'm
know.
looking at the banner and it's still, sorry guys, it still says Martin. I changed it. It must not have saved. Let me do this the right way. We are talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It didn't save. Sorry. People are like, what they talking about? Bel-Air.
It say
That's what we're
Martin.
talking about. It still says Martin. And what did I say? 1990 to 96. So that part changed. But let me make sure.
and
Sorry to
and
those men and the women over there, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Look, at the end of the show, I see it because I don't really pay attention to that. 19, I changed the date changed. So there we go. So if you are watching, let me make sure it's right because I did it quick. Let me make sure. As we end. So as we end, I want to do some trivia quickly. Let me make sure that's right. All right. And Leroy don't be looking at it either. We just see it going past. We
nah,
not really
yep.
reading
I don't even paying attention.
it.
You right.
So we're not even seeing that. So sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. We wasn't paying attention. They talking about Fresh Prince. All right. So as we end, let me just give some trivia. Okay. So Alfonso Ribeiro, you know the famous Carlton dance. It's unusual to be loved by anyone. So when he first read the script, it said Carlton dances. It was nothing specific. He later stated in an interview that the Carlton dance was inspired by Eddie Murphy's White Boy dance and Courtney Cox dancing in the Springsteen Dancing in the Dark video. I can see that right in my head how she was doing
Really?
because
I
you
don't
know how
remember
they
that.
were doing. I remember that because it
Okay.
was before Courtney Cox was an actress and she was in that Bruce the Boss Springsteen's,
Okay.
and that was in 1984. All right, so the character Philip Banks was ranked 34 in TV Guide's list of 50 greatest TV dads of all time. That was
He
in
was number what?
2004. 34.
How they got Uncle Phil all the way down
Because
at
it ain't black.
34?
Because it ain't black. If it was black daddies, it would be higher. But it's all the dads of all
I'm
time
saying,
TV,
oh,
so
he
they
better
put
than all
him.
the ones that he got up there. I'd like to see who was
I
the
agree.
ones that they have.
Right.
I'd like to see that list of 1 through
Right.
30, 1 through 30, 33, who they are.
Maybe we
Pro-
can do a black daddy list. Maybe we can do a black TV daddy. That's what we can
yeah,
do next week to end the TVC series. We can do some greatest television moms, greatest television dads. Let's do that. We can do that
four
next week.
four greatest dads, and I know you gotta go. Four greatest black TV dads. See, I don't like to say black TVs. I'm gonna say dads on
No.
TV.
Right.
Bill
Right.
Cosby, James Avery, John Amos, and what's his name from Family Matters?
Reginald Bell Johnson.
Johnson. Yep. Those are the four, to me,
Yeah.
top four black television dads that were ever on TV.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can even throw
All right.
five in there
So
if
we
you
gotta
want
give
to.
it.
If you want to throw
Yeah.
Fred G. Sanford in there, you can throw him on
Lord
there
have
too.
mercy to Champagne and Rip for that Sam Pippen. All right, so we gotta go because I gotta get to my class. All right, so I just want to say Will Smith in the book talked about when James Amos was on there. Speaking of him, and everybody knows he played James Evans, right, on Good Times. We talked
Mhm.
about Good Times here. Um, he was on there as Lisa Will Smith, which is Nia Long's girlfriend. He was her daddy, and he told Will, "I've never seen a camaraderie like this on a set, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air."
Mhm.
And he said, just when this is over, I don't want you to ruin your family to be ruined. So when it's time to be over, I want you to send this cast off with dignity and grace
Mm.
because we
Mm.
know how he was treated on Good Times. And
Yeah.
he told,
Yeah.
and Will Smith said, he finally put into words what I felt as a kid watching Good Times, seeing James get,
Hmm.
unalived in the show. He
Yeah.
said he said even as a child he knew something wasn't right, and
Right.
now here's the man who played the part put into words what he thought, and he said he wasn't going to do his T family like that. So when it ended, he ended with, and he sent them off with dignity in grace, and I thought that that was so dope for him to do that. Let me see. One more trivia. The third, fourth, and fifth season finales were written to be respectable farewells in case the show wasn't renewed. The sixth season finale was written with full knowledge the show would not continue because the show didn't get canceled, y'all. He talks about this. He ended it in grace in class. Will Smith ended it. It wasn't, he just knew, all the cast knew that they did everything that they could do. And Will Smith said it
Do with it.
started becoming something different when Carlton got shot. Remember that and all of that? And he was carrying, and he said that wasn't believable. And he said it's a thing in the industry called swimming with the sharks. And he said in Happy Days, where Fonzie had his leather jacket on and he was surfing, swimming with the sharks. And that's to show you that in Hollywood that the show is about to end or get canceled. And he never wanted his show to get canceled. He wanted his show to go out. So they all collectively decided that season 6 would be the last show. All right, y'all. So last trivia. Despite portraying himself as charismatic, self confident playboy Will Smith, he said he was shy and an awkward teenager who was very insecure about approaching and dating girls. All right, y'all. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I don't know if you shared it to your Facebook page, Leroy, but that's what we're talking about. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This is more than just a movie where we break down classic Black films. Season 5, we focus on classic Black TV shows. If you don't subscribe already to my YouTube channel and you haven't, what you waiting for? Subscribe. Next week is going to be our final episode of season 5 for More Than Just a Movie as we focus on classic Black TV. Leroy and I have to come together to see what we're going to do to end season 5 and end 2023 with a bang. Leroy, you got anything to say quickly? Because I got to go.
Nah, I think this has been a great series that we did this fifth season. So I'm good. I think this has been really cool to acknowledge those
Yeah.
great Black TV shows out there. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for watching More Than Just a Movie. Remember to get some popcorn, get your favorite snack, and this holiday season, watch all your favorite movies and all your favorite TV shows. And tell us in the comments whether you're watching live or the replay, what are some of your favorite shows? What are your go-to shows? What's classic to you? And what classic movies do you watch every holiday season? All right, y'all. Leroy, love you, man. Bye,
Love you
everybody.
back. Deuces.
Thank you for watching. Peace. God bless y'all.